Welcome to the Erasmus Foundation podcast. My name is Paul Nugent. Are you looking for answers to life and its meaning? Then this may well be the very podcast you need to listen to. In a series of podcasts, we are going to look at the difficult questions of life and apply spiritual knowledge to find out the answers. Hello. Today, our subject is the science of spirit. Now, in the past, we've had the words science and spirit usually been on parallel paths and not crossing over. One was separate from the other, or that's how it seemed. The scientists would not appreciate those people following spirit, and the people of spirit would not necessarily fully understand those in search of scientific discovery. But this title has crossed them over now, so that science and spirit are under the same umbrella. Now, this is interesting, and I think an important step forward for mankind. So, Julia, the science of spirit. Hi, Julia. What would you like to say on the subject?
Well, I believe and I understand that the science of spirit is really a part of the natural law. In a way, it is almost like the structure of the natural law. That's how I have understood it. And the natural law, as we know, has been created by the great mind a very long time ago, and governs and orders the whole of the universe. So the science of spirit really is within the whole universe, the physical and the spiritual realms. And so to me, it seems quite, in a way, almost normal that we should link the two words. But I can understand, what you said about how we think on the earth. And in a way, that's perhaps one of the problems on the earth in the past, and I think it will change more in the future. And that is because on the earth, we use our brain, or we have a brain, of course, and we use it more than we use our mind, if people use their minds at all. So I feel that if we can surface our mind more, we should give ourselves the opportunity to think a little bit more broadly and understand the meaning of the science of spirit and why it is called a science. And the other thing that I understand, which I'm sure will be explained a little bit more later, is that everything that exists is linked with the law of mathematics, which I have to confess is not a great subject of mine, but I can understand why that is being said. The little that I could say I appreciate of the science of spirit, I can see perhaps the order in just looking at nature, the patterns, the shapes, the numbers. So I can see why that is said. And my own personal feeling is that the more I have surfaced my mind, the more I have been interested and sensitive to the natural law and thereby the science of spirit. And in particular, in the last few years, when I've been involved in the fruit and vegetable garden here, I think it has opened my mind a little more to how wondrous it is and how it works. And I really enjoy it. I love being out there in nature and having the opportunity to create plants. It's a wonderful feeling. And also I understand that within the science of spirit, everything is related. I mean, that phrase, no man is an island, really you can say that for everything that is created. And we perhaps on the earth only understand a little at the moment of what that means. But it is interesting watching certain documentaries on television to see how mankind is slowly realizing how connected nature is and how one thing helps another or one thing works with another. It is, truly incredible and a joy for us to hear and learn about as well. And I'm sure as our minds surface more in the future, which we believe will happen, that more of the science of spirit will be understood.
Indeed. Corinne, it is interesting that a lot of mankind believes that all this happened by chance. And you're going back to so-called Big Bang, and all of a sudden, over many, many, many years, we get a human being that's evolved and came to us purely by chance. And yet, if you look at the human being and look at the inside of a human being and see how it works and how every part needs the other part to make it work, it seems incredible to me that it's all happened by chance. So what's your feelings on that, Corinne?
Well, my feeling about that, Paul, is that nothing is by chance and nothing is by coincidence. If I may explain the way I see the creation, the way I see it with my human eyes, because of course only the great mind knows all about the science of spirit. But the way I understand is that the great mind has put order. He conceived the natural law to put order, and it was in the purpose of life in all the universe. So man is not here by chance. Man is here because the great mind has conceived that there should be human beings for the spirit to come and experience some human lives, because it is a way to learn and progress spiritually. All that exists in the creation has a purpose. In the science of spirit, as Julia has said, nothing is isolated, and all that is living depends on what is around and has an impact on what is around. And all is fitting together into the form of a pattern designed by the great mind, and this can be measured. And it is the reason why we can speak of science. There is logic, there is order, there is a pattern with all things connected. And it is what creates the balance. So when we look at nature, and people who take the time to look at nature, they can see how wonderful things are in nature, how all seems perfect, as long as man has not put his hand or his feet there. I could say nature in itself has balance. The creatures, animals, the plants, all connected, all helping each other. And this is the science of nature. This is the natural law. Man is part of the natural law. But, as Julia has said, the brain in this civilization, the brain has become very important, and has overshadowed the mind. And man, with his brain, is making theories, but perhaps because he's working with his brain, these theories sometimes can be perhaps not too correct, or perhaps sometimes the application of these theories can be not in the right way as they should if they were in tune with the natural law. For example, some sciences are being used in manufacturing goods, and sometimes some of these goods are not too healthy for man. So it means that there is something wrong. In medicine as well, it seems at the present time that some are believing that the more tablets you take, the better you will be. But there are side effects that can sometimes be really bad for man's health. So, as Julia has said, in the future, if man uses more his mind, man will be more in tune with the natural law, and perhaps will use more the science of spirit and be more in tune with spirit. And this eventually will lead to a better world. Nothing made by the great mind is by coincidence. All is under the order designed by the great mind. And it is important that man comes back to respect the natural law and the way the great mind has conceived life.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you very much. It is interesting when you look at science now and you see the discoveries they're making. And it is very impressive, some of the things that they're doing. But I just wonder how much more impressive and much more successful it would be if they were hand in hand with spiritual values as well. What do you feel about that?
Yes, Paul, I agree with you, because I think some of the examples that Corinne has just given, the reason that we're creating this imbalance is because of a lot of the weakness within our world at the moment that has become so great within mankind. For example, greed. So perhaps something is discovered about something in nature, and then there are people who feel, how can we use this to create something to sell to make lots of money? And I think that is one of the basis for this unbalance that we see in our world, and why we are in such a state at the moment, and why nature is showing itself as it is through our weather and through disease and in many other ways, and within mankind, because we are not in a good state mentally or physically or emotionally at the moment. But I think sometimes people are impressed, perhaps someone working in the science field, impressed by spirit, because they are trying to help us as much as they can. And so occasionally I think we have a discovery, and this would be tapestry for that particular person. And one would hope that that would be then taken forward in the right way. And sometimes I'm sure it is, and sometimes perhaps not. So I'm sure that will change in the future as we look at nature as being something that is there to work with us. But we should be approaching nature in a balanced way, not looking at it in a way of what can we get out of it, but more about how wonderful it is and how it is here to help us, but we need to work with it. And in that way, we will find that we'll have a more balanced world. We will find much more peace there will be little or no stress because we are working with nature. We are working with the natural law. So it's very simple and it's very logical if